Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. It looks like we have 45 people on the line, which is great. My name is Mary Lynn Loader. I am with the Metropolitan Sewer District. I'm Deputy Director of the Metropolitan Sewer District, and thank you for attending tonight for the first meeting that we have post award of the FEMA grant for you all to kind of get an update and understanding of what the are and where we are with things. I want to just provide some just general housekeeping things. First is that we will have time for my plan is to kind of get through the my slides, which I've got about 20 slides to get through. And I think in many of the slides, hopefully it will answer some questions that you might have. And then we can get through my slides, and then I've got time set up for questions. And I know I don't have a hard stop at 7:30, probably closer to 8 is my hard stop, but do want to give time for questions. Also, if you'd like to ask a question in the chat, you can do that by clicking on the little icon for chat. You can also raise your hand, and when we get to the question area, that's the question segment of the meeting, you could raise your hand, and we'll organize it that way. We do have everybody muted. Now that's weird. Patrick is making different changes to.
Sorry.
No problem. I haven't seen that.
Just ignore it.
Okay, no problem. So you can chat or you can raise your hand, and that we are also recording this as well, so that you will be able to listen later if we're going through things quickly. I understand it would be good to be able to listen back at that, so you'll be able to do that. And we will have that available on our website, and we will also post these slides on our website as well. We've set up a website specifically for the Muddy Creek FEMA project, and we have the link to that. So I'll go ahead and get started. Oh no, is that on all of our slides? That's so weird. Patrick, I'm just going to see if I could do a new share then. Let's see if I can do that. I don't know how that happened. Okay. Let me just see something here. That is weird. Okay.
I don't think I did that, did I?
Okay, I don't know. Let's see. Okay, now maybe it's clear now. Okay, hold on. Let me just get back. And I don't want to leave. I want to share. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Nope, everything's good now. I'm sorry, Patrick. I don't know who did it, but that was just very strange. Maybe I somehow did it. I don't know. Anyway, we are going to post these slides for you on our website, and we will have time for questions. So just to generally and I did want to also recognize, I'm backed up by several other MSD staff here. I'm going to go through in a little bit who everybody, or who the follow-up resources are for you, but we won't talk about all of those people, but Clifton Pendergrass and Gina Wedling, you're probably going to get to know a little bit more if you don't know them already. I know you've already had some conversations with Clifton. Gina is going to be helping out on the right-of-way. Jeannie is also in our right-of-way group. She manages our right-of-way section. And then Dawn Jackson has been helping out with communication and some of the photographs for the grants that we needed to have done. And Cassandra Hillary's been helping with some of the communication, as well as Deb Leonard helped to get this set up. And then Karen Ball is also on the line too from Hamilton County. So the meeting, my plan for the meeting today, our agenda is to kind of just recap generally the FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, just clarify who is eligible in this effort, go through the process and our schedule for appraisals and offers and closings. And then we also want to gather any updated contact information from you if anything has changed since September of 2019. And Clifton is who we want you to get that information to. And here's his contact information, and it'll also be on the last slide. And then also we want to leave time for questions. So first and foremost, just to kind of bring you back up to speed from when we had our September 2019 public meeting, that was before we submitted the grant. We were trying to figure out who was going to be participating in the grant. We had that meeting at the Dunham Recreation Center. And after that meeting, we were able to obtain about signatures from 31 property owners that expressed an interest to voluntarily participate in the acquisition program. If you signed that acquisition, that voluntary acquisition for the first phase of the, you are in this grant program. And again, it is voluntary, so you can still get to the very last day of closing and back out. You know, there's nothing that is obligating you to do this. This is all voluntary. And if you signed on as a voluntary acquisition form with and got that to Clifton, then you are in the program and in the grant. And the grant is specifically to reduce damages that and mitigate risk by returning the property to more of a passive, more effective floodplain use. We also did the technical analysis and justification and submitted the grant to the Ohio Emergency Management Agency. And the purpose of that, why did we do that? And that is because Muddy Creek represents a long-standing flood risk, really from overland flooding that is a considerable risk to life and safety. The hazard mitigation program supports risk reduction activities. It's eliminates that future risk by helping to get homeowners and residents out of harm's way for the next storm, because of where homes are located and where their homes are located, it is at continued risk of flood damages. And so we did a technical analysis, we did a benefit cost analysis through FEMA, and Clifton worked very, very diligently and very effectively also on that, which also resulted in a very high benefit cost ratio to result in essentially the FEMA determining that for every $3 they spend, every $1 they spend, there's $3 of benefit from a risk reduction standpoint. So it's a very high benefit to a cost from the federal contribution. So that's a good thing that we were able to demonstrate a significant benefit for FEMA to do this. And when we were meeting actually in September of 2019, we were in the process of doing this study. This study, and this is some of the outcomes of that study, helped us identify what would be the flood-prone areas of Muddy Creek Road. So if you see this illustration that we have down on the bottom here is essentially if the Muddy Creek had a FEMA-defined floodplain along Muddy Creek Road, where right now on a dry day you can't see, overland flow. But if the creek was still in, above the surface, this is the course it would be. And because of all the drainage that gets down in the area, it actually is equivalent to a 100-year floodplain that FEMA recognizes. And so that's why and how we're able to get the grant for being able to buying the homes. And so the purpose of this meeting is to is the first time that we're talking with you all now that the grant has been awarded. We were awarded, the total project cost is about $4.4 million, and MSD was awarded $3.9 million, part of it from federal government, part of it from the state, and then the rest that makes up the difference there is MSD funds that we're going to be helping to provide a local share. So again, the purpose of our meeting tonight is to recap what the grant will cover, I will present the next steps on how we're going to be starting appraisals and what you can expect, as well as some of the work that we need to do to get to that point. There is some work that we need to do to get to that point, and I'm going to discuss that. I'm going to give you an overview of the process and the time frame, and again, allow for questions, and then we will follow up by email and post this presentation at this website, which I also do have the website located bottom of these slides as well, and on many, this one not, but you'll see it later. So again, just to recap, the Muddy Creek Phase 1 FEMA grant is a voluntary acquisition program. We will not be using eminent domain when we use these funds. So this is something that we asked for participation. We got 31 property owners, and this map here is showing yellow highlights on the properties that are currently included in the FEMA grant that has been awarded. We have also submitted a second phase of a FEMA application that we're still waiting to hear back from FEMA on. We essentially did, really try to close the gaps in areas that we have a lot of gaps, And so I think some of the properties in the Phase 2 are some of these others too. But just this illustration is just showing our Phase 1 property owners. So let me talk a little bit about schedule. So schedule, we were awarded in January with the award. We're doing the informational meeting tonight with, and it was kind of late January that we got the award, doing the information tonight. We are doing some other work this month in order to be able to get geared up here. So we're also doing requests for proposals to be able to get some additional right-of-way assistance. Specifically, we need to get state certified appraisers under contract. So we are wrapping up that RFP right now, and we'll be getting that out on the street for contractors to bid on it, and we'll have that out for them to respond, ultimately to be able to have them under contract in late April. Also this month, though, we do have the grant agreement that we need to execute. In order for us to do that, we need to have a resolution approved by the Board of Commissioners, and we plan on getting that to the county at by the end of this week, to get that to the county so that it can get through the process. Generally about 2 weeks, we should be able to get that. I talked with Karen yesterday about that. So we do anticipate being able to get that to the county later this week, and then the board would be considering that in about 2 weeks or so. We also plan on having a kickoff meeting with OEMA to just, again, kind of go through some of the logistics and whatnot. So as I said, late April, we will have appraisers under contract with MSD. We will also have a title company under contract with MSD that'll assist with closing and disbursements of payments. And so that will give us the ability to get those appraisers up to speed, and by early June, they will be beginning the first 5 appraisals that will be prioritized of all of the 31 property owners that we have. And I'm going to get into in a little bit how we're going to determine that the first 5. After we do the first 5, we also have to have them reviewed by the state of Ohio state appraiser. That should take about 30 days. Again, we're trying to be conservative on this. We're going to be trying to also get these things rolling, in some cases sooner than the dates we have here, but I think these are conservative dates that we have here, and we will be doing everything we can to try to meet these dates. So in the August-September timeframe, we anticipate having reviews completed by the state appraiser for the first 5. And the reason we need to have those first 5 is the state needs to oversee and make sure that what we're doing is consistent and following industry standard. And once they feel confident that we are doing that for the first 5, then, and we have all of those reviewed and approved by the state, then we can go and get the rest of them taken care of. In the fall and winter, we anticipate having the first 5 offers sent out. And also in the fall, we would be doing all of the additional appraisals as well. By early spring of 2020, we would be anticipating doing some of the relocation of renters. We know that there are about 5 renters that we're aware of in the area. So we're just targeting early spring for that. And again, closings will be in late spring. Again, closings are going to be based on the ability for you folks, to find your replacement housing. We're going to be very flexible with you in terms of the dates for closing. We don't want to rush you. We're going to essentially put a placeholder into those offer letters that we have. That closing could, take several months. Just generally, we could put dates as far as December of 2022 in there. Again, we understand there's, the housing market is not what it was 5 years ago. It's maybe more difficult. So we want to be able to work with you on those kinds of things. In the fall of 2022, we would be doing demolition of properties that we have taken possession of, and then generally the grant is supposed to be closed out within 2 years. And so hopefully by that time, everyone is in new, safe, and sanitary housing, and everybody can go on with their days of not having to worry about situations like this. If we need to get an extension, we'll deal with that at a later time. Right now, we're really trying to get this done by 2023. So now I got a couple of a number of questions that I'm going to just pose, and then I'm going to answer them in hopes that that'll be helpful for you. So my first question that I have here is, how will the order be determined for appraisals? So we're required to have a prioritization of all of the properties, of which ones are going to go first. This is criteria that we've established that is consistent with the methodology that we've used in other grants and what FEMA and OEMA recommend. So as part of the grant, in order to complete the grant, we had to do this benefit cost analysis. And for each property, it is given a score through FEMA's methodology. So we're using that score to allocate to each of the properties in terms of a rank of priority. In addition to that, we'll take into account prior damage claims. We know that many of you have had one or more prior damage claims with MSD. So we'll take that into account. And if you've had 3 or more, that's 6 points. If you've had 2, that's 4 points. 1 will be 2 points. Then there's all other criteria that we have that is information that we do have already, some preliminary information, but we want to time to give us any updated information. Again, I mentioned that earlier, that if you have updated contact information, but also if you have updated information as to the occupants in your home, whether you have any that have any kind of condition that is a handicap qualification, or if you have an older person, elderly in the home, that would get some additional points. And then also if it's tenant occupied. And so we do, like I said, have a preliminary determination of order of priority, but please get Clifton any additional information that you would have. And we're asking that you give that to Clifton by next Friday so that we can complete the priority order. The next item I have here is what is the appraisal process? And so we're expected to begin this in June of 2021. And again, this particular process will be for the first 5 appraisals that'll be being done concurrently. So first of all, we will have the property owner will be contacted by MSD's independent state certified appraiser, as well as MSD's right-of-way contact. Gina Wedling will also try to help run interference on certain things, but generally you'll be contacted by our independent appraiser to schedule an inspection. After you have that inspection scheduled, they will come to your home and complete that inspection. And we encourage you to participate in that. We will also be outlining, certain COVID procedures too. We want to keep you safe and so we'll be developing a special process and approach with our contractor that we determine so that they can come into your home and you feel safe, but also that we're not putting anybody at unnecessary risk. So we will certainly take that into account. And if you have any special concerns or issues, we'll definitely work with you on that. And either Clifton or Gina can help you with that. But we do encourage you to participate in that because you'll be able to point out certain things to the appraiser that maybe they might not know or see. So just encourage you to participate in that. After that inspection, the appraiser will complete their report, and that will also include the fair market value estimate of your property value. That document is then provided to the state appraiser. So the state appraiser will review the report and essentially, if they have questions or feel like something's inaccurate, they're going to deal with our appraiser to get those issues worked out until they feel like the report is accurate, consistent, and is fair. Once the state appraiser completes his review and his or her review and approves it, then that report would be sent to OEMA, and then they will forward it on to MSD so that we can then begin the acquisition process. So that is the process that's going to begin in June for the first of 5 appraisers that we have. Again, based on that methodology, that criteria that I discussed earlier. The next question I have here is, what is the appraisal process for the remainder of the properties? It's great that the first 5 get their appraisals done, but how are we going to do the rest? So we're going to use that methodology. We'll have a ranking of all 31. And after the state appraiser approves the first 5, then we can proceed with all the remainder. And so we are getting those contracts in place with the appraising companies that can do this for us. And we will request that they initiate the next appraisals right away. And we will monitor their progress and try to keep them moving at a good clip so that, we're able to move this on as quickly as we can. I do see we have some questions. So I'm going to go ahead just, for the sake of trying to provide some clarity here. So the first question from Patrick, no replacement housing. Oh, okay. That's just a comment. So if you have no replacement housing needed, then once you get your offer, you'll be able to review it, determine if you want a second appraisal, which I'm going to get into in a little bit, and you don't have to worry about replacement. So, that's absolutely a unique situation, and you might be able to move a little bit more quickly on getting through the process. If we opt out, will this affect our ability in getting homeowners insurance going forward? I really can't answer that question. I don't know. I do know that some people already have difficulty getting homeowners insurance. So I don't know the answer to that question. That would be a good question for your insurance agent. What happens if the house floods again before we complete the process? And I failed to mention Tom Frank is most likely on this, and I quickly just added MSD names to the top slide, and I omitted him from my mind. I'm sorry, Tom, but Tom will certainly still be doing his job, even right now and before, during, after the FEMA grant. And if your home experiences a sewer backup, then Tom will still be on the job and be dealing with those up until the point that MSD takes possession of the home. I'm not going to get into the next question. 4 million divided by 31 is roughly 130,000. What happens when you, okay. I don't think that's accurate math. So I'm not going to talk about that right now. When will the 5 be determined? Asking because I need to know to get new renters. Okay. So the 5, again, if you get your information in, we're saying that if we want you to get any, excuse me, updated information in by next Friday. And then we will be able to make that priority order pretty quickly after that. So I'm going to go ahead and get to the next question now in terms of what happens after the appraisal. So what happens after the appraisal is, first of all, there's 4 steps to property acquisition here. The property owner is going to receive your offer letter and the appraisal report. MSD provides the property owner with an offer based on the fair market value, and within essentially about 30 days of us receiving that appraisal inspection report. So within 30 days of our the state approving it, and then us getting it, once we get it, then we'll turn that around in 30 days. For the other, after the 5 are done and approved by the state, then we'll just, when we get it, then we put together the offer letters, then we will get those generally back to you in about 30 days. The next step is you thinking about the offer. You know, is the offer good for you? Or maybe you thought maybe it was worth a bit more. Maybe you think that, you know, again, the appraisal comes in, it comes in low. You feel like you want to have a second appraisal. You can go ahead and do that. It is at your expense. It's not something that is covered by the grant to have a second appraisal, but certainly, you know, highly advise you to do that if you feel like you are wanting to get a second opinion. It needs to be by a state certified appraiser. And you also must notify MSD within 10 days of receipt of MSD's offer that you're going to get a second appraisal. Once we receive that second appraisal from you, then we will provide that to the state for their review with your appraisal as well as the one that we did, and they will determine what we can include in ours. The next phase here is the owner acceptance of agreement. Assuming that you have gotten your appraisal, you either decide to do a second appraisal, or you accept the offer letter. You know, assuming you got through that second appraisal and the state decided one thing or the other in terms of what we can include in it. In some cases, you know, some things might be averaged together, you know, to help benefit you. So that again is a reason why you would do a second appraisal. After all of that is done, assuming that, you know, we have an agreement on an offer and a dollar amount, then in terms of the next step is that you must return that to MSD within 30 days. And just some things I want to point out on that. The acceptance agreement identifies a number of key conditions. The first is that the owner is going to provide MSD with a list of all the liens on the property and understands that the proceeds from the sale must be applied to those liens. The property owner will provide all documentation necessary so that we can transfer and clear a title to the property and complete the transaction. And the owner is also agreeing to permanently move from the property once we actually do close. And we also want to just stress here that the owner understands that fixtures and materials or improvements to the property may not be removed or salvaged after that acceptance agreement. So we are not providing salvage value or removal at that time. So just want to stress that. And then lastly, you as the owner also understand that the sale of your property, you cannot use that to now buy another property in a floodplain. The whole point of this grant is to get you into safe and secure housing outside of a flood hazard area. So you cannot buy a home in a floodplain. And that's a condition of the grant. The next and last step to acquisition is obviously closing and transferring the property to MSD. And MSD does take possession at closing. And as I said, we will work with property owners to give you as much time as possible to find safe and sanitary housing, and to have a target date for in the agreements of for closing of December 22. Hopefully we can do them sooner. That's what we want. So we will attempt to work with you as best we can on that. Also, MSD has requested additional gap assistance to close the gap between sale prices and replacement housing costs. If that happens to be an issue, FEMA does allow for that, and we are currently at this time providing the documentation that they need to be able to review and consider that. And we don't have an answer right now, but we do anticipate by the time that we have appraisals starting that we will have an indication if that is available. But it is something that we are advocating for, and hopeful that FEMA will allow for that. I think I have a few new questions, and I think that there might be 4 new questions since my last, so I'm going to try to go to that. Okay, so a question was, should we get our own appraisal? So I think I covered that. You shouldn't get your own right now. I would wait until we first get our appraisers under contract, so that that can be done, and then you could have that to then determine and then make sure that you're using a state certified appraisal. And plus we have to know that 10 days after we give you our offer. So I think we would want to do that way. I think that the next question is with regards to, again, the math, and I'm sorry, I'm going to just get out my calculator here. Divided by 31. So I think that what we put together in the grant was what were values, as well as additional. We took information from the state auditor's value, plus added, I think it was 30% or more maybe, to come up with the estimated values for the homes. And we can share with you what the overall budget is, but the values are on fair market value. So that will be determined in the grant or in the appraisals. And so I apologize. Yeah, I didn't do math in my head, and I did just confirm it. So you are correct. I mean, maybe it does come out to about 141. I don't know, but we just need to go through the process and see where we're gonna come out with. And but we can also post the overall grant application and the budget derivatives of the homes were in the grant that were laid out. Let's see, next question. Are appraisals going to be accurate and fair? That is the intent of the appraisals, to make them accurate and fair. They have to be reviewed and approved by the state appraiser, and that's exactly what they're looking at. If we had an appraisal, would we want to save time and money? If we just had an appraisal, I just had it done in February. That's just going to be an issue that you could bring that up to Gina when you get to that time. The fact that you've already done it, I don't know. That's just going to be a situation that you'll want to bring up to Gina and the appraiser that we have. Another last question here. Are you going to have appraisal instructions to include finished basements that are not finished now because of flooding? So that I think will be something for you to pass along to the appraiser, so that they are, see that you did have a finished basement, because that information was incorporated into the grant narrative and documentation, because many of you provided that kind of documentation that you did have finished basements at one time. So the next phase here is for additional assistance that's available for displaced tenants. And so again, I think there's about 5 or so tenants that are located within the project area. The grant does provide for benefits up to $7,200 for tenants for a rent differential as well as a move pay, and that is based on criteria that needs to be determined is eligible based on occupants that were living in the property since the grant was officially submitted, which was April 30th, 2020. That's when OEMA approved it for final submittal to FEMA. And so that's the date that is used for determining eligibility for tenants. Well, we're going to have this information also up on our website too, so that you can get more of the details of the URA process, but I didn't want to get into all of that since there's most likely tenants aren't on the meeting, but if they are, they can gather information from our website here on that. So, the intent of this again is to help people get to safe and sanitary housing, and to put the property back to more of an effective floodplain as it was intended to be, and not be a place for homes when it's a repetitive damage and flooding area. This is an example of some pictures of the 2012 West Fork FEMA grant that MSD did. And these used to be a number of houses in this area. And we did a FEMA grant. Gina Wedling actually was point person on getting those acquisitions taken place. And that was just over, I think it was about 25 properties that we acquired along West Fork Road. And we're able to move them to a better place. And we didn't move them specifically, of course, to get them to an acceptable offer, and then they were able to relocate someplace else. So again, resources for you for follow-up questions are listed here. We have Clifton and Clifton's contact information for general questions, and then we have Gina for the appraisal and the acquisition process. And then, of course, you're going to be able to get these slides as well as a recording of this presentation on our website as well. So that is my last slide, so that we can now open it up to questions. And I'm going to try to go back to where I left off. Okay, and we will be able to access the recording of this video. Yes, you will be able to access the recording of the video. We're going to place it right on msdgc.org/Muddy Creek FEMA. You'll be able to get the slides and this the presentation. So the next question is, so for those who do not know of this program, how back in 2019, how do we get to participate if we choose to? So this particular phase is closed to those folks who signed the voluntary acquisition forms, and in 2019 and into 20, I think we continued to reach out to people in January and February of 2020, because we did add a couple of more folks from doing outreach, and even Clifton, I know, went to door in some cases, and Dawn. We got 31 in the first phase. The second phase, again, we did some outreach trying to get more people to sign in. We got 5 people in that one. I don't believe that we can add any more people to that. But if there is more interest and if there is, again, it has to meet the benefit cost analysis of FEMA. So we'll see how many more are interested, but more, first, before we can even apply, there has to be a federal declaration of a disaster that makes money available through FEMA. So we will be monitoring that, and you can stay in contact with Clifton on that particular issue. Next question is, if we do not accept the offer, can the property be taken as part of eminent domain? So this particular effort is a voluntary acquisition program, and we are not using eminent domain in this process. I can't say for certain there isn't going to be another project coming down the road that we don't know about right now that might affect this. I don't know. So, but we are not using eminent domain in this this effort currently, and cannot, because we're using federal dollars. Then the next question is, will MSD pay moving expenses for non-renters? Moving expenses are only provided eligible for tenants, according, again, to the restrictions by FEMA and OEMA. So we cannot pay moving expenses for non-renters. However, as I said, we are trying to get FEMA to approve us to be able to provide gap assistance. And in some cases, those the gap assistance, may be something that you could utilize for moving expenses. Next question from, let's see, Ms. Schindler is, do you anticipate that changes to the land like those done in West Fork will reduce the risk of backups in homes slightly upland, but still in the floodplain? Well, it's our hope that that would happen, but there are no guarantees, of course. It's only going to be able to really be effective with more people taking advantage of this. So that is something that we will, our intent is to construct something like West Fork or larger potentially, because we want to be able to put stormwater where we want it to be, not where we don't want it to be. So we will try to be designing this so it is going to reduce the risk of having a negative impact on flooding. Flooding in a floodplain is good. That's what it's supposed to be doing. But we need to give it a good place to do that. And so that's what we're trying to do here, so that it is more more productive for the community. Follow-up question with Barb, as homeowners accept offers to purchase, will the rest of the 31 be notified of confirmed sales? I'm not sure how that is, how confirmed sales are done, because we're not actually closing until the the closing date. We will have accepted offers, but that's I'm not sure. We'll have to follow up and get back to you on that. Question from Jerry: is there a why to know now? Is there a way to know now if our property is being considered 1 through 5? I don't have, we only have preliminary information based on the information that you've already provided. And we do have a preliminary list, but we do want to make sure that that's accurate. So if you have either someone who is considered handicapped or elderly, or have tenants, please provide that information so that we can consider it and review that. And we will make that available as soon as we do have it. Let's see. Next question is, okay. Is there? Let's see. Okay. Next question from Lisa: if we aren't in the first 5, do you have an estimate of the time for the remainder of the properties to get appraised? So we will we will be working to try to get those done as quickly as possible. You know, and we're doing this request for proposals right now to get the contract in place for the appraising company to be able to be ready and able to get that done. And, you know, we should note that the housing market, though, is kind of crazy right now. And so appraising companies are busy, but that's why we're seeking out RFPs, and we'll be trying to get companies to commit to, you know, stay on top of this, and we're going to keep them on top of it. Going back to my, I'll just slide back to the schedule that I shared. You know, ooh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I don't know if I'm, okay. So the, you know, if in August timeframe, we will be having the review by the state appraiser, and the first 5 will be done hopefully in August, September. You know, at that time, it's in the hands of the state appraiser, but we can't really start on everybody else because we need to make sure that they're in agreement with how we're doing it. So we're saying that in the fall is when the first 5 or the rest of the appraisals would be getting done. So you know, I'm hopeful that, you know, we're being very conservative and we're going to be able to be you know, beat this schedule, but I think that's probably a good estimate to put in your head for fall as when we'll be doing those remaining appraisals. And again, depending on what that company is that we select, we're hoping we'll get somebody who really has the capacity to do more than fewer, and that we can get them going on those. Or if we have to, because of efficiency, do the next 10, and then once they get those done, the next 10. We just don't have that that understanding yet, because we need to know who is going to be that company that's going to do it for us.
Mary Lynn, the next question from Tracy
Thank you.
is, will the city continue to clean the storm tunnels that are at the end of Muddy Creek? It needs cleaned out now and can't find departments that would complete this. Okay.
And so I'll refer that to our wastewater collection division for investigation. If that is I'm not sure if that's a storm tunnel that we're responsible for, if that's Green Township, but we'll follow up on that.
Okay, next question from Brady Metz is, from previous similar projects, what is the impact on homes and property values to the surrounding homes? Mm-hmm. Where on Muddy Creek will this construction and destruction impact traffic for the next 2 years? Mm-hmm. So, there's a third part to it too. Is the West Fork project what we should expect for the beautification of the neighborhood as a result of this project? Okay, thank you, Cassandra. Go ahead with regards to the previous project, the impact of property values, surrounding homes. I think that you know, there's different research out there. In fact, I know I was talking with Hamilton County Regional Planning last week about them potentially doing some studies on that, on, you know, some of the areas where this has already been done. I think, you know, we have seen research where there is a benefit to property values after you, you know, again, provide, you know, green spaces or whatnot. That's a positive thing. But right now, I know people are living in situations that are repetitively flooded. So, and I think that many of the folks on this call have had those kinds of impacts. So we're really trying to get them to safe and sanitary housing so that, you know, they could get into a better situation, as opposed to focusing on, you know, the value of the adjacent homes. You know, there's people who are really in a bad situation right now. And so we want to get them to safe and sanitary housing. But I think there is value of having green spaces that can more effectively manage stormwater. In terms of the beautification, you know, call it what you will, you know, the West Fork large rain garden that we have there, yes, it is pretty, but it's also very effective of managing stormwater.
And it all depends on, in terms of what we can do in Muddy Creek, it all depends on how much property we can actually acquire through the grant in terms of what we can put back. Is there another question? And I see, do we have a hand up also? We can maybe take.
There was a hand up, but they put it down. So.
Okay, maybe he put it into the chat.
Okay, the next question is, as you stated, the more homes acquired in this process, the better for the future floodplain control of runoff water. With that said, we have 50+ residents on this meeting. So can this be as to an idea of the possible interest in the program? So will you go back for more funding?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so as you stated, the more homes acquired in the process, better. Okay, so I think that as I said, we will reassess after phase. Well, first of all, we got to see if phase 2 is going to be approved. Hopefully, it is, because that also had a good benefit cost ratio, and then from there we can see where we are at, if there is still interest, and if there's still a good positive benefit cost ratio. What we need to do is be able to be ready for when FEMA declares another federal disaster declaration, so that then we could potentially put another phase in. And I'll also point out that Delhi Township is in their 3rd phase of a FEMA grant. So, so this is something that we could do another phase on, and it's really based on, first of all, the federal declaration and the availability of hazard mitigation funding, and then secondly, the interest from the property owners to participate. But we are in close communication with OEMA, FEMA. We do anticipate there to be more funding available. So I think the answer to that is yes.
Okay, next question. If we decide to stay, would we be able to sell our homes in the future, since this is considered floodplain?
Yeah, so the interesting thing about this is that FEMA recognizes the work that we did to submit the grant and be awarded as a special flood hazard area, but this will not be defined as a FEMA floodplain. It's, I don't know, it's, they're just not going to take our information now and create a new, a floodplain map and a FEMA defined floodway and stuff like that. So, but, it is common knowledge, I think, that this area floods pretty bad because of, it once was a creek. The road is called Muddy Creek Road. And, so I don't think that FEMA is going to make it a FEMA designated floodplain, but it is subject to repetitive flooding.
Next question from Stephen Marnell. I saw no mention of comp values. Will comp values be involved?
I'm gonna maybe if either Gina, can you, Gina or Jeannie, do you want to take a stab at this one? This is probably something that you could answer much more succinctly and clearly with your common knowledge of how comp values are considered in or not considered in the.
So yes, we do a full summary. The appraiser will do a full summary appraisal report. Each appraisal will have a minimum of 3 to 5 comps, and that's based on recent sales. So yes, comps will definitely be used in arriving at fair market value estimate.
Okay, thank you, Gina. And just, I think
Carolyn,
that's, yes, go ahead.
Jeannie, let me tag into that the instructions in the RFP for the appraisals that this is pre-flood values. So they're supposed to ignore the impact of the flooding for these properties. So look at this as if these properties were not impacted and when they used their comparables.
Yep. So thank you, Jeannie and Gina. It's so thank you for that, because just going back to the earlier question about you used to have a finished basement and now you don't because of the flooding. So because you did, your comp will be based on pre-flood. Is that correct, Jeannie, the point you just made?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
There looks like there's one more comment. It says, with this project in the works, I worry about my ability to sell my home if I don't want to wait years for an offer that I may or may not be satisfied with. Seems to me we are stuck and unlikely to be able to sell our homes during this limbo period.
Well, we are going to be working as fast as we can to make this happen as quickly as we can. I think that, if you feel like you need to leave sooner, then you do that, but we are trying to provide a solution to a community-wide problem of repetitive flooding in this area. So, I understand, and I appreciate your concern and your worry for the ability to sell your home. Your home is something that you've invested a lot in, and I understand that this is a very, very difficult situation to try to navigate, and it's stressful, and I understand that. And the housing market isn't what it was, just 5 years ago or whatever. It's different. It is much more competitive and stuff. So, we're going to be doing what we can as quickly as we can to take full advantage of the dollars that we have, and potentially even add more dollars to it if FEMA agrees to provide, to allow us to provide some additional gap assistance to address that too.
Another question from Tracy Price. It says, with the housing market values now again, I worry how $4 million will cover the cost of 31 homes. Is there more money to cover fair market values?
Yep. And so just to tag on to what I just stated, we have requested OEMA and FEMA to consider that we would like to have the ability to provide additional gap assistance. They have to authorize us to be able to do that. And so we are putting together what they need us to put together so that they can authorize it. And it could provide some additional funds between the cost of your the fair market value and replacement cost. That is something that we are working with FEMA on, that we're advocating for, and if they agree, then we will take that to the commissioners and request additional local match be provided so that we can provide additional gap assistance to close the gap on given the difficulty with the housing market.
Next comment is from Maureen Riley. She says, thank you, Mary Lynn, for the presentation and the good information.
You're welcome.
Next question from Lisa York. Are you also looking at the areas of most flooding as a priority first?
And so, yeah, I think the answer to that question is yes. Going back to our criteria, okay? So this benefit cost ratio that we have is focused on, again, what came out of the analysis from the FEMA criteria in terms of your elevation, your basement elevation. If you remember, back in the fall of 2019 and early 2020, we were doing surveying work of each house, every corner of your house, of the basement window, of the the door or the door going into the basement or whatever. We took all of those elevations, the ground elevation, all around there. That helped give us the information to incorporate into this benefit cost analysis. And through that analysis, that tells us, based on elevations and stuff, which ones flood as in terms of more depth or more impact to the structure, to the house. So, and that gave each home a score based on that analysis. So we will be taking that score into effect in the prioritization.
Next question from Barry. So how fast can you go back to FEMA for more funds to possibly cover a phase 3, say additional 25 plus homes? What would be the timeline?
Again, unfortunately, there has to be a federal, federal allocation from FEMA to the states to be able to do that. So we are monitoring that, and that's stuff that is outside of our control, but we are monitoring that on a regular basis, and we'll be looking at that. And again, we've done a lot of the legwork in terms of having this grant now awarded, and now the second one already submitted. And so I think that we know that that this is an area of priority, just based on what conditions we're familiar with. So I really can't give a timeline, because it's dependent upon stuff that I just don't have any indication of available funds. But I do know that OWEMA, like FEMA has, OWEMA and FEMA, silly names. FEMA has a new program that they are planning to make available later in the fall, and it's about resiliency. And again, so it might be something of that we could utilize and go after for this. It would be a different kind of grant though, but we're looking at it.
Karen has her hand up.
Okay. Karen?
I just want to let everybody know that Karen Ball, Hamilton County MSD. So I'm here representing county, and I want to let everybody know that we're going to do everything we can to draw down as many dollars as we can from FEMA. But the Board of County Commissioners is prepared to, once this process starts going and it keeps moving forward, after the first 5, we have to get the first 5 confirmed as the appropriate process to use to get to the point where the voluntary sales can happen. And once we get there, we'll see what the rest of the story goes. But the reality is that the Board of County Commissioners is paying very close attention to this, and they really want to make this work for everybody. And we'll do everything we can to work with FEMA and MSD, MSD leadership to expedite this process as much as possible. It is a long process, but I'm here representing the Board of County Commissioners, and it is a very important project to get done.
Yep. Thank you, Karen.
You're welcome.
Okay, I think I missed a question from Tracy. If we opt out, does the city still manage pump outside home?
Does the city still manage what?
The pump outside the home, I'm assuming that's what she meant?
Yes. Yeah. We've installed sewer backup prevention. If it is an MSD device, then that will remain the case.
Okay. Next question. How many homes does the phase 2 cover possibly?
Yep. So the phase 2 included five additional homes.
Okay, next question from Patrick Murphy. I just want out. 2 floods and 5 years, 3 cars lost.
Okay. We want to help you get out.
And Tracy Price says, thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone, for your questions and comments. And I hope that this was helpful. It is 7:35, but I see there's another question too. Okay. Yes, Lisa York, go ahead. If you could read that, Cassandra.
Okay. How much notification / time to move will I be able to give my tenant? He is due to renew his lease the end of next month. I want to give him an idea of when he will have to move next year.
Okay. Again, I think that is a unique issue, but I'm going to defer to either Gina or Jeannie. Gina is currently working on the Rapid Run grant right now. And is there any guidance that you want to
Yes.
provide? Thank you.
So the first thing we want to tell your tenant is do not move. Do not move. You're not going to be the one that's going to tell them when they have to move. At the same time that I'm going to be working with the property owners on the acquisition, going on at the same time is going to be a relocation specialist working with your tenant. So the first thing they're going to say, they're going to send them a general information notice, and that's going to say, don't move. So you don't need to worry about renewing the lease. He can go ahead and renew their lease. That's fine. But you want to wait until a relocation specialist has been in touch with your tenant, and they will work directly with him as far as those people to make sure that they are properly relocated. Does that answer your question?
I think that does. Thank you very much, Jeannie.
And I also think we want to add in there that relocation services are capped at $7,200. So we want to be sure that the tenants are moved into decent, safe, and sanitary housing. And we'll pick up the difference if we can, unless the gap assistance comes into play.
Yeah, so there are additional benefits, for tenants, specifically like that move pay. So for example, it could actually provide a benefit for the tenant if their rent is now going to be higher someplace else for, I think it's 42 months, that differential could actually be paid out to the tenant.
That is correct.
Yeah, so it is to that person's advantage. If they're eligible, if they meet this eligibility criteria that we have here, then it would be in their interest to stay.
That is correct.
Yep. Okay.
Lisa York has her hand up. Would you like to unmute, Lisa?
Yeah, I just figured it'd be easier to ask this instead of just like keep typing. I just want to know, since I'm going to be having him, he's been in my house for at least like 5 years now. And he's been telling me each year he has no intention of moving. I just want to know how upfront I should be with him when he's going to resign the end of this year, because, if you're going to come in the summer or fall and come in and do an appraisal, we're going to have to schedule with him. And I don't want to be like shady about it and like not being honest with him, but I don't want to lose him as a tenant. I live 4 hours away. I'm a single parent. I'm a widow now. I've got 3 little kids. So it's hard for me to go down there and get someone to come in. So I don't want to lose him at all, but I don't want to scare him, but I want to be honest with him at the same time. So this makes me nervous.
Your tenant will be he'll be well taken care of.
Okay.
These folks are going to end up better off than where they are now.
Okay.
They're going to get, the relocation specialist will hold their hand through the entire process. And he will, trust me, he will come out on the other side even better than where he is now.
Okay.
And you can reassure him that we're not just going to kick him out. They're going to find replacement housing for him.
Yeah.
And they're going to compensate him if he ends up going someplace else and paying higher rent. Like Mary Lynn said, the rent differential is going to be what the difference between what he's paying now and what he's going to be paying times 42 months. He'll get that in a lump sum benefit.
Okay. Yeah. Cause I have not even raised his rent one time at all for him. So he's been very lucky to where he's been staying, but yeah, I just don't want him to like freak out and then not sign for next month. So it's just hard to manage when I'm so far away.
Thank you for being being a good landlord, Lisa. But we will be sure that the tenants are probably more protected than anybody under the Uniform Relocation Act.
Okay.
We'll be sure that they're taken care of.
Okay, okay, thank you. I'll reassure him. Thank you so much.
Next question from 5607 and 5621. Just to verify, I know you all can't give a firm date for when the properties outside of the initial 5 will potentially get an appraisal, but was the estimate roughly fall/winter of 2021?
Yes, that was, oops, sorry. Okay, so yeah, here's the slide of the projected dates. And again, that's from of early June, with those first appraisals beginning in early June and going into July for the first 5. And then putting some time in there for the state to review them and agree upon them. And hopefully that'll get done sooner. But we're putting fall and winter in for the subsequent appraisals to get done. Again, you know, I'm hopeful, and I know that Gina will be working really hard with the contractors and Jeannie to try to get that, you know, that we're going to try to beat this schedule as opposed to, you know, be lagging with it. So we want to try to be conservative and manage expectations, but we're going to be, you know, we're just trying to put some realistic dates out there.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. We and Gina and I will be, you know, monitoring this as much as we can and pushing this through as much as we can. We understand this is a challenge for all of you, but there's things that we, you know, things that we have following steps that we have to follow. So just bear with us, and we'll get there as soon as we can.
And Jeannie, I know is, or Gina is working on the rapid run with some Jeannie's help as well. But, you know, when I spoke with Gina a few months ago when we were, you know, I think we just got awarded this or whatever. And she's like, oh my God, I have 20 offers out right now for rapid run, you know? So it all happens. I mean, she's got this down with like clockwork. You know, I think that we have, a really good person on this, and I think she has a lot of experience in these grants too. So we're going to try to do, you know, as best we can to try to, like I said, beat the schedule, but we just want to manage expectations. And Karen, do you want to add something?
Real quickly, I want to share my confidence with Jeannie and Dina and their ability to navigate the FEMA grant application process / appraisal process. We truly are committed to getting as many people satisfied as possible through a realistic process that has to be followed. And I hope you all know that there's nobody here that doesn't want to make this work as much as we can make it work.
Yep. Thank you, Karen.
You're welcome.
Yep. And with that, you know, the last comments I see in here are, you know, why do renters come out better than landowners? How are they taken care of better? I mean, these are just, it's the Uniform Relocation Act. It's a federal relocation act that does protect renters. And we have to, you know, work with that and comply with that. Again, we are trying to get the additional gap assistance. And as soon as we find out about that, we'll be sure to let you guys know. And hopefully that can provide some additional benefits for homeowners. It is only available to owner occupied properties, though. I should emphasize that. The gap assistance, if it is approved by FEMA, it would only be available to owner occupied properties. So with that, I think, I know we've gone over what our original schedule was, which we're totally fine with that, but I do want to, you know, honor your time as well. but I know that you guys could probably ask, a lot more questions. You're going to have more questions after we get off the line here. So please feel free to follow up with Gina or Clifton, general questions to Clifton, anything property appraisal or acquisition related. You have Gina's email in this last slide. Let's see, let's get there real quick.
Mary Lynn, while you're getting there, there's one other question. It says, is there another meeting scheduled for the homeowners?
So the question is there another
meeting scheduled for the homeowners?
At this time, this is the meeting that we scheduled for the homeowners, and it's like I guess did someone want to just unmute themselves and ask specifically what kind of meeting they're asking for? Maybe just an update meeting or something, or what is it that you're seeking?
Barb, are you still on the line?
Or you can chat it if you'd like.
Marilyn, I think we should probably share with them that we'll be sending them communications as as we progress with what appraisal firm has been selected and who to contact, and always set up another meeting if they think it's necessary. And thank you, Karen, for your faith in us.
So, this meeting was set up to give you the update that we have right now, and assuming that we are going to have a contractor in place at the end of April. I have no concerns with having a follow-up. Maybe once we are closer to the end of April, if you all would like that, we can absolutely do that. I have no problem with that. But we will be following up with an email. Tomorrow. We can just send again the link out. I know we sent out an email to all those that we had email addresses for about the Zoom call tonight. We sent that out I think it was earlier this week. We can send out a link to the website with the presentation, and we'll try to keep that website updated too with any updated information. We can certainly, if you can, make sure that Clifton has your email address, though we do sometimes use regular snail mail too. But I think that we prefer email, but we understand that sometimes people can't do that. So we'll probably be doing a little bit of everything, but we can plan just to kind of check in on schedule and stuff at the end of April, so that people know what things are, what's happening. And once we have that prioritization completed with the updated information, if you have anything in terms of those items that I mentioned, in terms of the occupants of your home, that we can get that in the updated priority order, and then we would be able to make that available as well.
Mary Lynn,
Yes.
this is Clifton Pendergrass here. Just want to make sure to follow up what Mary Lynn just said. Not only the email address, make sure you give the updated phone numbers, as well as if you're not residing in the property, your mailing address, as well as if you have tenants in there and you didn't put it on the initial form, let me know the tenants that you have in your units as well.
Yeah, thank you for that. Just a reminder, because again, it's that will help us get all of the resources available that we need to on the relocation agent as well. So we do want to have an indication of that. I know Clifton does have information that you previously provided on tenants, but things do change. So please get him that information. Okay, so I think we will post this on the website tomorrow. We will send an email out, and then we will also plan on a late April update on where we're at. And hopefully it will be a nice dry spring for all of us. I probably, I'm knocking on wood, so. Thank you all for joining us, and we will be back in touch. Karen, what would you like to add as closing thoughts?
I just heard the weather report. It's 9 days of less than 30% rain.
Yeah,
Yay.
exactly.
Yahoo.
All right, thank you. Thank you everyone for coming and for participating. And please just appreciate your patience and being on tonight and helping us have hopefully what was a good productive meeting.